Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Iron and this is Iron's Tech. Today I wanted to do a little update about this 12-inch Retina MacBook from 2015. I've been using it for about 1 week and I wanted to give some thoughts and feelings about it. So basically I took my usual laptop, which is an M1 MacBook Air, the base model. I put it into my case, which is this thumbtack case, and I put it in the cupboard and tried not to touch it for the whole week. In place of that, I tried to use this one. The first thing about this computer is it is much lighter than my MacBook Air, surprisingly so. In fact, including the weight of the case, my MacBook Air weighs nearly double this. Mostly because I put the MacBook 12-inch straight into my bag with no case. I bought it as a very light, very portable computer. I didn't want to add any more weight by putting a case on it. So that is a massive benefit of this. It's so light. To the point where it caught me off guard when I switched back to my M1 MacBook Air. I nearly dropped it because I completely misjudged the weight. Okay, so let's talk about the things that this laptop did well. I used it mostly for things like Google Drive, Safari browsing, some Google Meets conferences, pages, documents, responding to emails, watching YouTube, that kind of thing. Nothing particularly demanding. For Google Drive, it was fine. It was a little slow loading things up, much slower than my M1 MacBook Air, but manageable. It wasn't to the point where I was getting too frustrated with it. It was okay. I did things like in docs, sheets, slides. I used it for a couple of presentations, a few meetings, and yeah, hooking it up to a display, that was fine. It works great at that. As long as there's nothing too demanding on the screen, it will handle slideshows no problem. I wanted to add at this point in the video, when I do use this MacBook with an external display, as I only have one USB-C port, I have to use one of the Apple adapters. I had this adapter anyway for my M1 MacBook Air, so it wasn't an additional expense for me, but having the power and the video output from one port, you are going to need an adapter to do that. Safari, mostly just browsing news sites, Sky News, BBC News, that kind of thing. I think the most tabs I had open was about 6 in Safari. And again, it's got 8 GB of RAM. That wasn't too much of an issue. With the Meets conferences, it did get a little chuggy when I had lots of people in the meeting. So, I mean, like 2, 3, 4 people, not a problem. But if I was trying to do more than that, this would start getting a little bit hot. It would get a little bit, you could see it not being happy about it. And it would start, the faces of certain people would just disappear from the meet, you know, and it would say, you know, it wasn't able to handle the load or something like that. So that was a little frustrating, but again, it did get me through the meetings. It wasn't like it dropped the whole conference or anything. It did get through it. Pages documents were no issue at all. Pages was fine, it was quick, it loaded okay. I was importing pictures into things, importing tables. It didn't have any issues with that whatsoever. Responding to emails was fine. The email client, especially the one that comes with, like this one down here, this email client works totally fine. There's minimal loading time. Yeah, it was good for that. And YouTube as well, YouTube works fine. It loads noticeably slower than the M1, but again, I don't expect this to be as fast as my M1. So again, YouTube, not really a problem there. Things I liked, the screen, as I said, I think in the first video, I really like this screen. It's a Retina display, it's plenty bright enough. The size, I actually really like this. It doesn't feel too small, it doesn't feel like it's too cramped up. When I switched back to the M1, it was a pleasant change to have the larger screen back, but when I'm using this every day, I very quickly got used to it. very quickly got used to how small it was. And I generally use one thing on the screen at the same time. I'll be swiping between them all, but I don't tend to have lots of things cluttered on my screen. The only time I might is when making videos or something a little more demanding, and then this does struggle there, so I'll come on to that in a moment. The battery life was okay. It was about between 3 or 4 hours of light use. I mean, it does have a warning here which states service recommended. It's an old computer, it's from 2015, I'm sorry. But again, 3 to 4 hours of light use, that was okay. I generally had an outlet somewhere near me. I was able to plug in and charge up when I wanted to. I do not have to worry about that with my M1 MacBook Air. That thing will last 10 hours of light use without too much trouble. But here I did have to make sure I had an adapter with me. But the adapter for this is quite small. It went in my bag without too many issues. But yes, the battery life is not incredible. With the battery life, I had the screen brightness at about 75% most of the time. So if I had it up to 100, I'm looking at maybe 2 hours, which is not that great, really. Things this could not handle. Anything demanding. It only has a dual core processor. 8 gigs of RAM is quite nice to have, but the dual core processor really doesn't like anything demanding. I tried to make a video using this with iMovies. It can do it, but it's not that good of an experience. It did stutter a fair bit. You got frames dropping here and there, and I got a few beach balls. Exporting times as well are not amazing. Again, it does it. It can do it. If it's like one 1080p video, it's not too bad. But again, compared to my M1 MacBook Air, it's night and day. It's a whole nother level. But it will do it. I just don't recommend doing it on one of these. I tried playing a game on here. I used World of Tanks Blitz. I tend to use that as a testing. I tested my iPad with World of Tanks Blitz. This can run that game. It will run it at 60 frames per second. You have to have all the settings on low. If you try and run it on anything above that, you start dropping frames. I think I started out with everything on high, and I was getting between 20 and 30 frames per second, which makes that game quite tricky. Switching to low, it was holding 60 quite nicely. It did get a bit hot to touch. It was especially here and on the bottom. It was getting uncomfortably hot to touch there. But it was running, and I was playing for a good 30 minutes, and I didn't notice much of a frames per second drop. So despite the throttling, which this does to keep cool, it can run light games. Anything more than that, if you try and run something like Tomb Raider on this, you're going to have no luck. It's going to be very, very choppy, very low frames. But lighter games, it might just about do that. Okay, so we've just joined the game and it's just loading in. The last few times I've played, it's loaded in after the battle started. This time we're in beforehand, which is great. I'm going to be playing with the trackpad, so apologies for the performance. I'm going to be not amazing at this. Again, if I'm looking down in the bottom right hand corner, I'm seeing 60 frames per second held without a problem. I can look all around everywhere. Let's go into sniper mode. Again, we've still got our 60. Just drove into a wall. Well done. So again, it's holding up all right. And let's get another player on the screen as well. Still holding 60. So again, for the light games, as you turn the graphics down, this will play it. It's not really an issue. I think if you turn the graphics up, as I said before, you're going to see much lower frames. In fact, I will come back with another game in a moment and just show you what that looks like. I've just loaded into another game. I've turned all the graphics up to high, the high default setting. I just want to see how this goes. I'm just waiting to join the game. I expect this will load in after the game has started. The increase in graphics, I think, will... there we go. We're already off and we've just joined. It's feeling much more choppy. It's doing actually not so bad, between 40 to 50 FPS. That's 57, 59, okay. I have to admit, I'm a little surprised. I'm seeing the resolution drop a little bit there. So I think the default high setting has the render resolution adjustment turned on. It's really getting a little bit choppy. Actually, the input is feeling a bit delayed as well. I think there's a little bit of input lag with the graphics up this high. I can also feel the keyboard heating up under my fingers. Let me just go across and have a look at the temperatures here. Okay, we're looking at nearly 80 degrees, and up here this is getting really hot. So I don't think we're doing this little MacBook any favors running this at high graphic settings. I will play a little bit more and probably get myself shot in the process. But I mean, so it is playable at these settings, but turning it down to low makes for a far more pleasant experience, and the MacBook doesn't get anywhere near as hot and bothered when doing that. I did not penetrate him doing that. Oh, I am gone. Okay, so as you can see, it will work at higher graphic settings. It's dropped. You've got like 43 FPS down here now. It doesn't do it easily. This is getting really hot. I'm going to come out of this. So you can game on this. It's not the easiest thing. The keyboard was something else I really didn't like. I thought I might get used to it, but it's so small key travel. The key travel is so light on this that it's not good. And when I switch back to my M1 MacBook Air, the difference is it's again night and day. The M1 keyboard is so much better than this. This is a Generation 1 butterfly keyboard, I believe. And I think the versions of this that came out in 2017, the keyboard was vastly improved. But yeah, this one is still working, which I'm very happy about. None of the keys are gone yet. They still work fine. They don't stick. But the travel is very light, and I find myself either not registering the key or like hit it, or it. Sometimes I'll not be sure if I've hit the key. It's a very odd sensation. But yeah, I do not like the keyboard. Trackpad, on the other hand, I love this trackpad. It's just a mini version of the one on my MacBook Air. It does everything the same, feels very similar. It's a beautiful glass top trackpad. Yeah, incredible trackpad. One last thing to add would be, it looks beautiful. This is a very pretty computer. I had many people, I'll just close that up, many people commenting on it, asking me what it is, where I got it from, like why is it so small, can I hold it, can I touch it, can I try the keyboard out? Like, so many people were interested in what it was, and can I get a new one, that kind of thing. Based on that, I do feel there is a market for these and laptops this size, but I don't feel Apple thinks the same way. Maybe they don't think there's a large enough market for something this size. But if an M1 version or an M2 version of this size laptop was released, I mean, it would be very hard to resist picking one of those up. Like, it's such a nice form factor, and it's such a sleek, attractive design. And I mean, it is very similar to the M1 MacBook Air, but because it's smaller and thinner and just it's the thickness of a USB-C port here, it's incredibly small. Yeah, it would be hard not to get one if an M1 version was released. Overall, I would say if you need something just for doing the things I mentioned previously, Google Drive, Docs, Sheets, Slides, browsing Safari, a couple of tabs at once, very light Google Meets conferences or Zoom calls, it can do it. It just gets a bit cross if there's too many people. Pages, documents, no problem. Responding to emails, again, it flies through that. I had no issues whatsoever there. and just watching content, watching some YouTube here and there. Yeah, I had no problems there at all. In Safari, I could only get this to load up 1080p videos. I couldn't work out why I wasn't not able to select video qualities above that, but on this display, because it's quite small, that doesn't look too bad. Through Google Chrome, I was able to watch 4K videos, and it took a little longer to load them, but I can watch those without any frames being dropped. That was fine there. So I think that's it. If you want something to watch videos or non-demanding tasks, you can pick one of these up. Anything more, I would strongly suggest looking into a Pro from the same era, or if you can spend a bit more money, try and find a used M1 MacBook Air, because they're incredible for the price. They can do everything. Thank you again for watching this video. My name is Iron. This is Iron's Tech. Hopefully I will see you again soon. Thank you very much.